Hello and welcome back here to our live in St. Peter's Square. Right now it's the end of the Angelus prayer that Pope Francis just held here in the square. There are thousands of pilgrims who have come to celebrate today's Mass, the solemnity for Mary, Mother of God, and afterwards pray with the Holy Father the Angelus. During the Angelus, Pope Francis also mentioned Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI and entrusted him and asked everybody to entrust him to the intercession of Mary, Mother of God. He also thanked him and again was very grateful for the great testimony that Pope Francis has given also to the Church and the world as a whole regarding his faith, regarding his prayer life as well. With me here now is also Rudolf Gehrig, our Vatican correspondent. Rudolf, you've been following now the latest developments. We've been informed a bit more than 24 hours ago that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI has passed away. What else have we learned? Maybe you can repeat also a little bit. What will be the next steps here?
Yeah, the next step will be that the body of Josef Ratzinger, of Pope Benedict XVI, will be presented in St. Peter's behind us from tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. The people and the faithful all around the world have the possibility to come to Rome and to say farewell to Pope Benedict.
There are also many TV stations, media outlets who have flocked in. We're here with our colleagues. Almost hundreds are here. In the background, we hear the building of platforms also for the live coverage. Of course, EWTN will be broadcasting live here on television in all our networks and also digitally. But we also wanted to help everybody to experience a little bit the mood here in Rome, where there are really thousands of pilgrims having come here first because of the new year, and now many decided to stay on. Many decided to also spend their time here in St. Peter's Square to pray with and for Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Rudolf, can you tell us a little bit more what Pope Francis said today also about Pope Emeritus?
Yeah, a few minutes ago, during the Angelus prayer, he said, Pope. He reminded the faithful that Pope Benedict, as Pope Francis said, left the earth yesterday and went home to our Father. And he encouraged the faithful all around the world to pray for Pope Benedict. And I think that's maybe not the worst idea, because that's always a problem of people who have that many fans around the world. And Benedict has a lot of fans, and people think that he will maybe be a Santo Subito, but especially then it's very important not to forget that it's also important to pray for him, also for a pope like him.
We had you on especially here on this platform as well, on our digital platforms yesterday, and you told us a little bit about your personal relationship with Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, how you experienced him, what role he played. How did you experience the day yesterday?
It felt like a spring day, or a day in the spring. It's of course the reason was the weather. It was warm. It was hot. It didn't feel like a winter day, and it really fit to my mood, because I was sad. It felt like I would have lost my grandfather, but on the other hand, I was happy for him that after all this suffering during the last years, that he is now. Yeah, he's there where we all want to be someday.
And also the mood here right now. I mean, we hear in the background on St. Peter's Square a band playing and drums. People seem to be quite happy.
Yeah, that's right. And the spring continues in the first day of the new year, and that also fits perfectly to the spiritual testament that the Vatican yesterday released.
The spiritual testament of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI has been released yesterday, first in Italian and German. Pope Benedict wrote it in 2006, at least he signed it on the 29th of August, a long time ago. Can you tell us a little bit more what he wrote in there? What is in his own words, his spiritual testament?
Yeah, first of all, it's interesting that he wrote this testament in August 2006, so just after 1 year after he became Pope. So maybe he didn't really believe that he would live that long. For me, as a German Catholic, it's interesting that he mentions his German fellow compatriots and saying, please don't lose faith. I hope that Germany will always be a country of faith, and then encourage all the Catholics around the world the faith is worth it, so fight for your faith. Please don't lose it. He repeats that again. And of course, he apologized for all the things he did wrong. And in the end, his favorite topic during the whole life of Joseph Ratzinger is also mentioned in this spiritual testament when he said, there's faith and reason aren't enemies. So we have both fit together.
Let us come back to this in a second. Please stay here. I see we have a guest here now also who's been brought in. Hello, what is your name, sir?
Massimo.
Massimo. And why are you here in St. Peter's Square?
I come from Sicily, from Syracuse, and I am in Rome for a short period of vacation. And I am glad to be here at the beginning of a new year. I listened to Pope Francesco, and yesterday there was a bad news for all the Christianity. Yes, sorry, for all the Christianity, because Benedetto has left the life. And
what do you think about Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI?
We are talking about a great man, a giant that has the courage to leave the church in a moment in which the church had many difficulties, and I think that we have to remember Benedetto, because Benedetto is living now, and we will live also in the future all the time, because in our mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming here also, and have a good new year, a blessed new year to you and to your wife. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Rudolf, we've just heard from this man from Sicily who has come here for the new year, but then he heard of the sad news of the passing of Pope Emeritus, and now he's also staying here, and he's also grateful for being here and witnessing this and meeting all those people who will come now into the city. Do you know already, will there be a lot of people from Germany coming here to Rome, or are they already here?
Yeah, yesterday I had to disappoint a lot of people from Germany and saying, sorry, my guest room is already reserved for my mother-in-law, because she will come. My mother-in-law, she owes Pope Benedict a lot. She said she refound her faith again because of this Pope, because of this Cardinal. So there are a lot of people coming and say farewell to the maybe most famous German in the last decades.
The most famous German, and you also mentioned that even in spiritual testimony, but in general, sometimes it's not really being seen how important Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI was, also especially in the German-speaking world, on the level of philosophy, on the level of theology. And he also said that he followed this field, he followed theology for 60 years in his life. Exactly. And he's still very positive and still very hopeful that it is possible also with regard to human sciences, to make sure that natural science, human sciences are not opposed to theology, are not opposed to believing in one true God. And with his whole life, he actually expressed that. Is that not true? Also especially, I mean, he was a German-speaking pope, so also his thoughts influenced a lot of people.
Yes, and for a German, he was very emotional and very. He didn't hold back with his feelings. Whenever he spoke about God, you felt that he is, in a way, still in love with God, and he found a way to keep this love fresh. So if you compare to other great theologians, you sometimes saw that they write about God in a very abstract manner, but with Joseph Ratzinger, you always saw, he really believes what he's saying there, or he can maybe explain very complicated the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, and the concept of Trinity. But on the other hand, he was very faithful to Holy Mary and pray the Rosary, all the stuff that even normal Catholics do.
I mean, we heard yesterday also in the interview with Archbishop Genswein, who gave an exclusive interview to EWTN. You can see it online as well. It's I recommend it just because it's a beautiful, beautiful narration also about how Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI lived his faith. How he really took seriously celebrating Holy Mass every day. How serious it was for him to pray the prayer of the hours, the prayer of the Church. So it's really also for me it was very, very inspirational to hear that. It's inspiring to see that's how you can live your faith on a very personal level, even though you're in the public, even though you have a very, very busy schedule.
And he shows us that it's the important are the small steps. So you don't have to do every day a huge pilgrimage to Fatima or just crawling on your knees over St. Peter's Square. No, it's the small steps. So be kind to your people, say a short prayer when you wake up, and that's the way to sanity. And it's a great thing that maybe most high-ranking Catholic in that time, so who is the Pope, shows us that it's not too difficult to get into heaven.
Rudolf, for EWTN, you also are expert, so to say, on the German synodal path and the Church in Germany in general, I would say. We've had the German bishops just here a couple of weeks back for the Ad Limina visit to Pope Francis. That wasn't an easy visit.
No.
Now, quote-unquote, their Pope Emeritus has died. There were a lot of reactions from the German-speaking bishop conferences, also from Austria, but of course also from Germany. What did they say? How did they also interpret the legacy of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI?
They were very respectful and also a lot of grief. And I just saw that a lot of bishops on their private or half-private Facebook accounts then couldn't hold back to upload the last pictures they had with Pope Benedict. Sometimes there are some sounds between the lines who saying, yeah, but this guy was difficult, and we the German Bishops' Conference, we see things differently, but it's always good to remind ourselves that not all the bishops think so. The German Bishops' Conference is a little bit departed, but I think in that moment, even the opposition to Pope Benedict, and he had a huge opposition, even they had to admit that a great guy and a really a man with a huge impact died this day.
A great man, a great philosopher, a great theologian, a great pope also has passed away yesterday. Rudolf, one more thing. You said a lot of bishops, a lot of people. We saw that all on social media were posting now their pictures with Pope Emeritus, or at least something how they remembered him. What did you post?
Just our great EWTN coverage we did. No, yesterday was a really busy day, but the day before he died, I was on the cupola, on the dome of St. Peter's with my cousin. It was the first time here in Rome, and we've been there. And then I had a moment, and I didn't expect that the Pope will die the next day. So I stood there and I took a picture and told my cousin, yeah, here in this room, in this little monastery, Mater Ecclesia, there's Pope Benedict, right? And then we joked about it, so maybe I can use this photo and give it to my boss, to you, and to our agencies, so they will give me back the money for the for the lift, for the ascensore. But yeah, and so on the same evening I posted this photo and said, yeah, here is Pope Benedict fighting for his life in a way. Yeah, and I didn't expect that he will leave the earth the next day. So yeah, we will still have a lot to do now to realize what just happened.
Also, like Pope Francis said in his homily at the Vespers last night, he has left us. Yeah. And it feels a little bit like this. No, he has left us, but at the same time, as we said, there was a very good mood here on St. Peter's Square. A lot of people, we'll still hear how many thousands have come here, and we expect many more pilgrims to come into Rome. Rudolf, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll have you on later as well. We'll try to be live here, not all the time, but at least every full hour, to give you a little bit of an update what is happening happening here in St. Peter's Square in the heart of Rome, with Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI passing as well. The background noise you can hear is like platforms are being constructed in the back here for the many media outlets who will cover live the funeral of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, and also from tomorrow onwards at 9 o'clock he will lie in state in St. Peter's Basilica, and a lot of people of course will come to say their goodbyes, to also say their condolences and pray with and for Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. I see now Anthony Johnson is here, another person working with us in the Vatican Bureau. He just flew back in from Amsterdam. He's originally from California. Anthony, great that you're here.
Thank you.
And 1 second, are we still? All right. We were just checking if we're still online. So thank you also for being with us here in St. Peter's Square. We thought we'd just go online and let you also participate in what is going on here in the heart of the church, really. Anthony, you also came back. You had to cut your holiday short. You wanted to stay with your relatives in Amsterdam. What did you experience coming here to Rome?
So my experience coming here to Rome, well, I was surprised, first of all, yesterday morning when I received a text message from our fellow colleague saying that Pope Benedict had died. And I wasn't sure when it was going to happen, but generally speaking, from the coverage that we had been receiving, it seemed like it was coming sometime soon. Words can't really express it. I'm still trying to process everything right now. I was initially planning, as you had mentioned, to take some extra vacation days after the New Year's, but when something like this happens, and because we have this presence here in Rome, our office here, I think it's very necessary for us all to just come back and work hard and support each other, because these are very important moments, especially in our society, but also the history of the church, history of the mankind, and the story of ourselves as Christians. So I wouldn't miss it for the world.
You've been following also everything that's going on at the Vatican. You've been following, of course, this current papacy. You came here to Rome 5 or 6 years ago now. How have you experienced Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI? I mean, he's been living in the monastery Mater Ecclesia. He's not been a public figure anymore, except for some very rare occasions. But what were your experiences there?
Well, as you mentioned, Pope Benedict XVI's legacy here, at least from my time and my experience here in Rome, is that he's always been out of the spotlight. He's been living in the Vatican at the monastery there. But I do remember this one moment where I believe his brother was ill and then he passed away. And it was this huge news story that Pope Benedict had left the Vatican. And I said, what do you mean? Why can't Pope Benedict leave the Vatican? Like, he's a free man. He can go wherever he wants. But it just speaks to the nature of who Pope Benedict decided to be as the Pope Emeritus, which is to live out of the spotlight, to live a life of prayer. And I had the opportunity to also see a painting of some of Pope Benedict's closest friends and collaborators in this time as Pope Emeritus, which was painted just down the road here in Piazza Navona. And it really showed that he had his own small community that he trusted, he loved, and he relied on, especially in these times that are very unusual for a pope. So,
what do you mean he had his own trusted community? They were shown in the painting, or?
Yeah, so people like Archbishop Ganswein, people who were attendants in the house, cooks, people who did laundry. I mean, Pope Benedict wasn't living just by himself and cooking his own food and doing his own laundry. There were other people who were helping him, assisting him in this time. So the reality is that Pope Benedict is very beloved in the community here, and there are people who are very close to him, and that's shown, I think, in that painting.
Very well. What other? So you produced also, of course, a lot of. You have produced a video, a report on that painting, but also other things. What do you remember from this pontificate in? More in a quiet way, probably not so public in those years where you were here.
So, as you mentioned, most of my time here has been spent documenting the papacy, the pontificate of Pope Francis. But I'll say that I think a lot of people don't really fully grasp and understand who Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI really is in the depth of his relationship with Jesus Christ. I remember I was reading one of his books, Jesus of Nazareth, and my my reaction was that he was on a different level than other people really knew, and that was really communicated to us, the people, because it's one thing to write books, it's another thing to be on camera and speak to the public. So the reality is that in order to really know who Pope Benedict XVI is, or who he was, you really have to read what was on his mind and what was on his heart.
Because you were fairly young when you read that.
I was in college, so.
But very often, Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI has been portrayed as, very intellectual, very hard to approach, not more a basically a person that is not very open, approachable, etc. But it seems that he actually inspired a lot of young people, especially also with his writings.
Yes, well, I would put him in the category of, if you really want to get to know Christ and understand who God is, he's someone who you can turn to give you that depth and that knowledge. So, from my watching of his videos, from seeing him when he was in the public sphere, which I never really got to experience here in the Vatican, when he spoke at a very high intellectual level that when I was a teenager couldn't really quite understand. So now, as a young adult, I can more fully appreciate that.
Very well. What will you take with you from him?
I think the journey is just getting started with knowing, with a relationship with Pope Benedict XVI and his legacy that he leaves on the world and the church, on our minds and on our hearts. Because with the amount of books that he's written, with the number of apostolic trips he's been on, there's countless people, there's countless lives he's touched in this time here and his time here on earth. So I'm really looking forward to the next 10, 20, 30, 100, maybe even years after I'm even long gone too, to see how the world accepts him, how they react to him, and what legacy he builds. Because I think it's very easy for some people to have a very narrow vision on the modern current times that we live in now. But ultimately, history tells who people are in reality. So I'm hoping that the legacy is positive, that people really get to know Pope Benedict's heart and mind, and it continues to be so.
Pope Francis said just a few days ago, Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI is a saint. Do you think we'll see a canonization soon here?
Well, I'm not the Pope, so I can't really say, but I hope and pray that Pope Benedict XVI is in heaven and that the Church could confirm that in the future.
Very well. Yesterday, Matteo Bruni, the spokesperson of the Holy See, said that yesterday especially, but also today, the coming days are days of prayer, are days where we should also pray for, but maybe also already pray with Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. And offer that up. Can I just ask you, would you pray a Hail Mary and with our audience together with me for Pope Emeritus, but also with him, asking for his intercession for all the people who are flocking now to Rome and working here?
Very good, yeah.
Hail Mary, full of grace,
the Lord is with thee.
Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and in the hour of our death. Amen. Hail Mary, Mother of God, please pray for us.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Anthony, for being with us.
Yeah,
and I'm sure we'll have more time to talk also in the coming days while everything is being prepared here for the big live broadcastings where you'll also be a part of for EWTN in many languages.
Yes, I'll be in the piazza with the camera. We'll be shooting a lot of interviews, getting to know also people's story, their reaction, and the relationship with the Pope Benedict XVI. So I'm really excited. It's a sad feeling too with his passing, but I think we have a lot of reason to hope for the future too. So I'm glad to be here.
Very well. I'm just looking around if we have got a guest. If we don't have a guest, then we will stop right here. We'll try to be back with you at the full hour. Just give you more. No, I see we do have somebody who's also joining us, our Vatican correspondent from Catholic News Agency, Courtney. She was here yesterday for a very short time. Courtney, please.
Hi, Andreas.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
A good new year. We had you here yesterday as well, when we heard also from the news that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI has passed. What else have we learned now in the meantime? You've been at the Sala Stampa, that's the press office of the Holy See. You've been informed there. You've been writing a lot about the coming days and what we ought to expect with the funeral, but also with Pope Emeritus lying in state for for the next 3 days, actually, right? So starting tomorrow, I believe.
Yes, that's correct, Andreas. I just came from Holy Mass with Pope Francis inside St. Peter's Basilica, where the Pope offered Mass for the solemnity of Mary, Most Holy Mother of God, and Pope Francis there entrusted the soul of Benedict XVI to the intercession of Our Lady. And there were thousands gathered in the Basilica early this morning for the first papal Mass of the new year. And in the prayers of the faithful, the congregation also remembered the late Pope Benedict XVI. And as soon as I came out of the Basilica, the first thing I was struck by as I walked out of those doors right behind us was just the immense crowd that was gathered here today. Immediately after the Mass, already gathered in the square for the Angelus address, where many people told me that about the impact that Benedict XVI has had on their lives and on their journeys of faith. I think you can really see the universal church in St. Peter's Square this morning. I spoke with people from Vietnam, from Myanmar, from Guinea in Africa, Poland, and the general consensus among everyone I spoke to was that Pope Benedict was a man of great faith, and that he had really touched and holiness, and he'd really touched people's lives personally.
There was also the mention of gentleness quite often, I realized. I mean, even Pope Francis yesterday in his homily at the Vespers, no?
Yes.
His homily was focusing on gentleness, but then he mentioned also what a gentleman and gentleman Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI really was, right?
Yes, that was something that's come up again and again. I mean, it's really been a theme of Pope Francis's pontificate, but it was also a central focus of his homily today, the tenderness, the gentleness of Mary, who he said is not only Jesus' mother, but is a mother to us all during this time when, he was saying in the time of war and the time when we're mourning the loss of the Pope, and that we really need hope. That was another essential theme.
And today is also the World Day of Peace, no? So hope and peace today. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? What did Pope Francis also say on that topic?
Yeah, Pope Francis recalled those who are suffering during this time of war, especially during the Christmas holidays. The church is still celebrating Christmas, and he recalled those who are suffering from the violence and the cold in Ukraine. And we also had the community of Sant'Egidio here present in the square for the World Day of Peace. And one man I spoke to in particular, who is from Guinea, Africa, he recalled Pope Benedict and how, during his many travels to so many different countries during his pontificate, how Pope Benedict also was a voice for peace in the world.
So Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI was a peace voice for peace. Maybe yesterday I saw you here, and you also brought to us here on the set the ambassador to the Holy See from the Ukraine. Can you tell us a little bit more? What is the situation there right now?
Yeah, when I spoke with the ambassador yesterday, he had told me he had just heard from his government about another round of bombing and violence in Ukraine. So it's very much going on as we speak, and you can see that was at the forefront, is still very much in Pope Francis's mind during this difficult time, when he's also dealing with the loss of his predecessor and someone who has been, very close to him here at the Vatican.
And maybe can you tell us a little bit more, what will we see tomorrow when Pope Emeritus will be lying in state? I think it begins at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Will there be immediately faithful being allowed to enter St. Peter's Basilica, or what are we to expect? How much do we know?
Yeah, we can, the Pope Emeritus will be lying in state for the next 3 days, starting tomorrow, as you said, at 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. in the evening. they've also made accommodations that the viewing period will start even earlier on Tuesday and Wednesday, as we expect more and more people to be flying into Rome. It will be starting at 7 a.m.
So longer opening hours also, no, until 7 p.m. in the morning, from 7 p.m. in the morning to 7 p.m., 7 a.m. in the morning to 7 p.m. in the evening, correct?
That's right. That will be on Tuesday and Wednesday. We also learned from the Vatican this morning that we can be expecting photos of the Pope Emeritus, where his body is currently resting inside Vatican City in the Mater Ecclesiae Monastery. So that will give us an idea of how we can see him dressed for the papal funeral that will take place on January 5th.
And has it been confirmed now already that Pope Francis will preside over the funeral?
Yes, Pope Francis will preside over the funeral. It will be happening outside here in St. Peter's Square, and that will, right now, Pope Francis, who just turned 86 years old last month, he's been using a wheelchair to get around and has been dealing with his own health difficulties. But having the Mass in the square will not only allow for more people to come and be present for this important moment as we for the funeral of Pope Emeritus Benedict, but it will also allow greater accommodation for the Holy Father to be present up there and on stage during the Mass.
Yeah, and many people will be saying, well, of course Pope Francis will preside over the funeral, but that's not something that's self-explanatory, no? Because basically it's probably the first funeral where there is a pope presiding over a pope's funeral.
It's true. This is really an unprecedented moment. Benedict XVI was the first pope to resign in the last 600 years. So there's been a lot of questions of what will this what will this week look like. It really will be a historic moment, as you said, having a pope presiding over a funeral mass of another pope. And I think we've already heard a little bit about what Pope Emeritus Benedict's wishes were for the funeral and how this week would be handled. The Vatican spokesman told us yesterday that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI desired to have a simple funeral. We know he'll be buried in the crypt of St. Peter's Basilica along with many other popes. And we also received last night the Pope's last will and testament.
Which is beautiful. I mean, we touched base on this before. Yeah. But give me a second. I know we have here another guest. Please stay here, because I would like to get back to the funeral, the simple funeral. We just reading and just hearing also here in the square just moments ago were more than 40,000 faithful coming to this Angelus. Of course, many had planned to be here for the New Year, to welcome also the New Year together with the Holy Father. But as well, we know that many already have arrived here as pilgrims to say goodbye to Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Courtney, stay with me. We'll come back to the simple funeral, as you called it, and this were the wishes of Pope Emeritus. But let's just see who we have here. Please, could you stand here? That we have you in the what's your name?
My name is Miriam Moore.
Where are you from?
I'm from Sierra Leone.
And why are you in Rome?
I'm in Rome here. I've been, I think this 2023 is my 10th year here.
Oh, so you're living in Rome. And why did you come to St. Peter's Square today?
Yes, I came because I'm proud of being here because I'm a Catholic. And being that today is a very special day for we are Catholics. And when Papa is preaching, and moreover when the loss of Pope Benedetto, I so felt his death. But at the age of 96, I think it's time for him to go and rest.
No, it's true. He has been preparing for this,
yes,
for many years now. But what does Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI mean to you?
It means a lot to us as Catholics, and he was a very nice person. He has done a lot. Anyway, so as he was sick, in fact, as the Pope Francisco, Papa, all these days through television, they were saying they need to pray. Everybody have to pray for him. Even last service, last Sunday, it was the same thing they were saying. Within myself, I was praying too. 96, God has done a lot. So instead of him sick like that, just on sick bed, doctors are doing theirs, they are doing. I was praying within myself that if it is the will of God, let him rest.
Very well. So we'll pray for Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI and also ask him maybe for his intercession. Thank you so much for being with us and for being here. Thank you.
Happy New
Thank
Year
you.
to you.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oops. So we're here live at St. Peter's Square. I'm just looking now at Courtney if she has time to come back to us for a minute, because she mentioned a simple funeral. And this is what we've learned so far also from the Holy See press office. Please, Courtney, if you have 2 more minutes just to address this. We'll just try to get you and the camera with it's so, because here it's like spring. It's quite symbolic also, no? I mean, it's a sad moment where we convene here and also speak about a great person. At the same time, he would have been the first one to say, well, you should be happy that now I'm with the Father and I'm going my way to a life everlasting.
That's true. It was a very beautiful day yesterday, and it was really fitting that as Pope Emeritus Benedict closed out the final hours of his life. The whole world was also closing out the final hours of this year, and there was a beautiful sunset last night in St. Peter, over St. Peter's Basilica just before the church gathered together. There were 8,000 people in the Basilica last night to pray in Thanksgiving, the Te Deum prayer, and thanksgiving to God for the graces of this past year and entrusting to the Lord the year to come. Pope Francis said something at that moment of prayer last night that I thought was really beautiful. He reflected, not only giving thanks for the gift that Benedict was to the church, but he said, only God knows, just the power of what Benedict has offered, in offering up his suffering and offering up these prayers for the church in the past nearly a decade since his retirement. And that's something that we've been reflecting on in these days. There will be a simple element to the funeral on Thursday, but I think we can also see a lot of people gathered here. Just today we already had 40,000 people in St. Peter's Square for this first Angelus address since the death of Benedict XVI.
And let me just ask you, because you mentioned also simple funeral, and of course there have been 2 options basically, and that a lot of not speculation, but people said, well, either it's going to be 3 days, which would be also normal for a cardinal, 3 days of mourning and then a funeral, or maybe it's going to be longer for a reigning pope. I believe it's 9 days where they're lying in state.
That's true. When a reigning pope dies, typically there's 9 days of mourning in which a different cardinal offers mass for the soul of that pope each day, and the cardinals are usually handpicked by the Holy Father. And these 9 days are really reserved as a time of prayer after the passing of the Pope ahead of a conclave. Obviously here, that's the central difference, is that we will not be having a conclave this week with the passing of Benedict XVI. Right now, we haven't received any indication from the Vatican that there will be this traditional 9 days of mourning at the Vatican, but we do know that at least we'll have these 3 days in which the faithful will be able to gather and pay their respects and pray together with the body of Benedict XVI, and then we'll have the funeral just the day before the Feast of Epiphany.
And the funeral itself, right now there are only 2 state delegations planned to be here. It's the German and the Italian one, which is also a little bit smaller. But as you said, Matteo Bruni, the spokesperson of the Holy See, also explained that this is actually what Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI wanted. Nothing bombastic, but a simple, smaller funeral.
Yeah, I mean, we really saw Benedict XVI's humility, deep humility, and holiness over this past decade, how he really took a back seat and was comfortable just to be out of the public eye, living in prayer and interceding for the good of the church and for the world. And so we do know that he's requested this simple funeral. I would be surprised, though, if we do not see more heads of state arriving here. I've already spoken with some Vatican diplomats who said they're coordinating with their governments, trying to see, in this short time period, if it will be possible to have more world leaders coming here to pay their respects to the late.
So I've heard the German Chancellor is planning to be here. Nothing is confirmed. We don't know for sure. Do we know something about the U.S.?
Not yet. President Biden released a message sharing his condolences on the death of the Pope Emeritus, and also calling him a great theologian, and reflecting on the gift he was to the church. But as of now, I have not heard who we'll be seeing from the U.S. government here.
Courtney, thank you so much for being with us again. I hope we can ask you back as well, also as you learn more and more about the next days and how this is unfolding. Also, who will be coming here. So it will be very interesting to see. And starting from tomorrow, or on Tuesday, actually, we'll have also live broadcasting for television right here from St. Peter's Square, with our team from Washington, D.C. and Alabama being here in the square in St. Peter's. Everybody's flying in right now from EWTN. Also a crew from Germany is coming, a crew from Poland, from other countries, and we're broadcasting this into 12 languages across the world, really, together with our affiliates, to let you participate here in those proceedings around the passing of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you also, Courtney, again, and we'll be back. We'll try to update you every full hour on what we know and what is happening here at the Vatican. In Rome, Andreas Tonhauser, EWTN Vatican Bureau. Hello and welcome back here live on St. Peter's Square. More than 24 hours ago yesterday we learned that Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI has passed away. We're preparing everything here for our live coverage from EWTN in 12 languages down in St. Peter's Square for the funeral on the 5th of January, and tomorrow also the Pope Emeritus will be lying in state in St. Peter's Basilica right here behind us, and from 9 onwards pilgrims will be able to say goodbye to this great Pope, to this great man. We're just trying to give you also a little bit of an update from the things that we're learning while we hear the news that are coming in, and also the proceedings that are we to expect for this coming week. And as I said, in 2 days we'll start our live television broadcast, which will be also, of course, online, where we'll bring you the experts, the friends, the people who have been around accompanying also Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI over the last years. It's been very impressive to hear already so many testimonies of how he touched lives of faithful, of how he also was responsible through his writing primarily, that people really opened their hearts to the church, opened their hearts to God. And here with me now is also Anthony Johnson. We had him on already earlier, who is working with us in the Vatican Bureau since more than 5 years now. He's a filmmaker, a video producer, but also a journalist, somebody who is very much involved with the Vatican here and understands very much what is going on and is happening, but also understands to capture that for larger audiences across the globe, really, to bring them closer to the message of the church, but also to Jesus Christ itself. Anthony, thank you so much for being with us here today. First of all, will you go pay a visit to Pope Emeritus tomorrow?
Yes, I hope to pay a visit either with tomorrow or the next days as soon as it opens up. I understand that some journalists will be going as a group, so we'll find out if that becomes available, and if it happens, I will take the opportunity.
Yeah, and we're hopeful also to have a team there tomorrow already for also filming or documenting how the people are paying the tribute to Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. What do you expect? Will there be many people already on the first day?
So far in my conversations with others here around the Vatican, they expect the audience to be smaller than expected, but you never know. It's going to be, it's the funeral, so you never know when or how it's going to come together, whether or not it's going to be a large group or not.
So it's not so easy. I mean, you also had to end your vacations. You came back from, I understand, Amsterdam, where you want to spend New Year. You came back here also to be available to help with the productions around the funeral for Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Is it difficult to come to Rome right now?
Well, for me, I flew in last evening, New Year's Eve, a little bit of a surprise, as you indicated, but there was almost no one at the airport, which, if you've been to other places around Europe at this moment in time, there's a lot of canceled flights, and just travel right now is very difficult. But thankfully, flying on New Year's Eve, it's not a day or an evening that people usually fly, so I was able to get here quite fast. And
it seems that a lot of people, at least from what we hear, our friends, also our families who feel close to Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, they're now booking their flights or have booked them already. It's still possible. Rome is indeed a big city, so it's not like this is overwhelming. But at the same time, there will be quite a few people here for the proceedings, for the funeral as such. Maybe real quickly also for you personally, what will you take with you from Pope Emeritus?
Take with me from Pope Emeritus. You know, it's a very good, also very simple question. I think that desire to know and love Jesus and sharing that with the rest of the world is of vital importance, because in my conversations with other people my age, not everyone's relationship with God is the same or equal, and some maybe are very rigid in their faith, which is what Pope Francis has talked about before, like traditional Catholics can be very rigid. But at the same time, maybe being a traditional Catholic too, people take their relationship for God for granted. You know, they assume that they know everything that's needed to be known because they've been born and raised Catholic. So as an adult, I would say that one of my biggest objectives, and I look to Pope Benedict XVI as an example, especially now that he's passed away, to really look to him as an example who sought to know Jesus, share it with the world, and that we're not just earthly beings, we're destined for eternity, and Pope Benedict XVI is the perfect symbol and role model for that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you also for being here with us and helping with the productions and everything. Thank you, Anthony. We have now also another guest here, I understand. If I may ask you to come here. We're just asking also people who show up here at St. Peter's Square now. What's your name?
My name is Dimpna,
Where are you from?
Ireland.
From Ireland. Why are you here?
Well, we're here on holidays, but we're absolutely delighted to be here to have this opportunity to come and pay our respects as well to the Pope.
What is your relationship or how do you see Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI?
Well, I think he did a pretty good job as Pope, but I think the thing that was really important was when his health began to fail that he had the humility to step aside and pass it on.
And what will you be taking with you from him? Is there any specific writing, any book, or something that he said that is inspiring you?
Maybe.
Oh, sorry. Also you. What's your name?
Kieran.
Kieran. And is there something special that you will take with?
Well, obviously he was a very formidable brain. I mean, he was, could go down as possibly one of the greatest theologians of his age. So he was the intellectual powerhouse, you could say, of the church for a considerable period. I think once he became pontiff, he changed a bit and maybe he sort of mellowed. I think I think then he obviously, given his age and so on, it eventually became too much for him. But you have to admire that ability to step aside, as she said.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here also, and I hope you have also some time to pay your condolences also tomorrow when it's opening up.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So a lot of people who have come here maybe for New Year's, who have come here also to just enjoy the city, are now rearranging their travel plans like we heard, also to at least have time to say goodbye to Pope Francis when tomorrow he's lying in state in St. Peter's Basilica. And this also shows how many people from across the world Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI has touched and also inspired to really go deeper in their faith. I will ask now, just briefly, our Vatican correspondent Rudolf Gehrig, again to come out here just to see and understand if we have new information. Rudolf, anything that has developed now that we have learned?
Yeah, compared to the day yesterday, today is very quiet, still warm and hot, but the Vatican has published the first photos of Benedict's remains. He is now in the chapel of Mater Ecclesia. Tomorrow there will be the public viewing behind us in St. Peter's, but right now we have the first photos of the body of Pope Benedict.
The first photos of the body, they're available online, of course. We will also put them on our social media sites to show them as well. What are your first impressions?
Yeah, I saw them the first time on our social media sites. So EWTN Vatican was very fast. It's again a reminder that this is true, because yesterday we had a lot to do. It was very stressful, and of course we were prepared for this moment. But when this moment comes, it's something different. But when you see these photos, it's a reminder. No, Pope Benedict is really gone, and now he's hopefully on his way to our Father. So, yeah, it was a moment of emotion for me again. Yeah,
a moment of emotion. Anything else that we've learned? Anything that you've heard also from Germany?
Yeah, I just wrote with some people and asking me how complicated is it to get a hotel for German bishops. So some contacts from dioceses, of course. I'm pretty sure that maybe the whole Bishops' Conference from Germany will attend at the funeral.
Yeah, right now we know that there's state delegations from Italy and Germany coming to the funeral. I don't believe from any other states, at least no official delegations. But you also assume that the German, probably Austrian Bishops' Conferences, they will come.
Yeah, maybe not just a delegation, maybe all of them. Yeah, and And it fits perfectly because in his spiritual testament, Benedict reminded everybody us that he's still Bavaria and Germany. This is the country he comes from, but he also admitted that Italy has become his second home. So it's nice to see that there's a big delegation from Italy and Germany, and also the bishops.
And also the bishops. Very well. So we'll be back here at 5 o'clock in 2 hours from now with more people who have been close, who have been accompanying also Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Thank you so much, Rudolf, for your update. And we'll hopefully see each other later then as well. Thank you again for being with us here live in St. Peter's Square from Rome. Andres Tonhauser, EWTN Vatican Bureau.